Good morning and welcome to the show. This is In Touch, and I am Beth Christy, your hostess. In Touch is our weekly half-hour public affairs show, which means that if you are a member of a nonprofit group or organization, if you are a company here in the Hudson Valley helping out a nonprofit group or organization, we'd love to have you on the show. At the end of the program today, I will give you all the myriad of ways that you can contact me, and they're all over the place, so I would do that. So let me turn on microphones, and we are welcoming new friends to the show. A great organization that has been on the program before, but we've got some new voices talking about it, which I think is great. We're going to be talking about Grace Smith House. So we have Maxine Valenzia. She is outreach educator for Grace Smith House. Maxine, good morning. This is pre-recorded, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. And we have Christine Davidson. She's also an outreach educator for Grace Smith House. So Christina, thank you very, very much for being here.
Thank you for having us. This is an awesome opportunity.
This is great. First off, I have to tell you, we're going to be talking about Grace Smith House. And when you guys walked in, I was like, this is tremendous that there are different age ranges of individuals that are working with this, that understand the importance of this. I think that's really, really very, very powerful. I have to tell you, because nothing is going to happen if we don't continue to educate and continue to help everyone of any age, no matter where they are in life. So my hat is off to both of you for doing that. So just know that.
Thank you.
I'm impressed. So Christina and Maxine, we talked about this before we turned the microphone on. We always start with just kind of a general overview. I know that people have heard Grace Smith House, but Christina, you pulled the short straw, as it were. Tell us a little bit about Grace Smith House, just kind of an overview before we get into what we're talking about today.
Absolutely. So Grace Smith House is an organization, and we're right here in Dutchess County. We're a nonprofit. And what we do is we help people who are in violent situations, and we help them get resources. And we help them give them education about this stuff. So we do this in kind of maybe two different ways. We have intervention, people, families, individuals who already have this violence in their house.
Yeah.
Maybe they have this violence in their home and they need to escape. They need to go into hiding. So we have secret safe houses, which are shelters all around Dutchess County. So someone can go there for up to about 90 days where they'll get all their basic needs met, get case management, children's program, court advocacy. And some people just don't need a place to live, right? So they just have that violence and they need help working through that trauma. So we have a non-residential program called Brookhaven, and we do support groups. We have advocates there who help with case management, help with counseling, helping them get through that trauma and help them with whatever they need, essentially. And then we also have a children's program because kids who are living in this domestic violence in these homes, they witness a lot. And that's really traumatic, and trying to get that right then and there so they don't bring that trauma with them throughout their life is so important. And we have liaisons in family court who help with order of protections. So they write, they're petitioners. They work in an intake office. They write family offense petitions, which would give a judge decide whether you would get an order of protection or not.
Right.
We have people that work in CPS. So if there's ever a case that has some type of violence in the home, they're referred to our two CPS liaisons. So we do lots of stuff in the government buildings as well, which is awesome. And then we have prevention, and that's what me and Maxine do. So we go into the middle schools, high schools, and the colleges in Dutchess County, and we talk to young people just about violence prevention.
You know, it's interesting. I have to tell you, when Renee and Stephen were here, but it's just about a month ago, and folks that listen to the show will remember that, talking about an auction. And Renee, I always ask her with the Grace Smith House, what is, I think, really vital and important is that it looks at the community in which it's in. What do people need? And noticing that in teens, like you said, middle school and high school, there are dating behaviors that are not healthy. And somehow somebody says, well, I guess that's the way it works. And that isn't the way it works. So that's why I'm glad that you guys are here. So Maxine, you've been quiet long enough. We're going to bring you in. So let's talk a little bit. When you say outreach educator, if you were to say to somebody, what is it that you do as an outreach educator for Grace Smith House? What would you say?
So an outreach educator, we really target our communities. So we're in the 13 districts in Dutchess County. And in this, we provide workshops, so educational workshops. So in the middle school level, we talk about bullying and cyberbullying and how to be safe on the internet and how to be an active bystander when you see this happening in your schools, in your hallways, in your cafeteria. And then in the high school level, we talk about dating violence, messed up relationships. And in that, we provide workshops. What are the warning signs of an unhealthy relationships? How can you help a friend if you see this happening? So we really, with an outreach education, we really want to spread awareness and education and provide them with the resources that they need if they see this happening in their community or they know someone if this is going on.
I have to ask you guys a question, and both of you, if you guys can both answer. How long have you been doing this, and what drew you to be able to say, this is what I want to do at this moment in my life where I am, this is where I want to be? Christina.
I was in undergrad in Rhode Island College, and I had to take a class about some social issue. And I decided to take a class on domestic violence because it's something that people don't know about. And it's something I didn't know about. I was 21 years old, and this is an issue I really had no idea about. I assumed just like everybody else does. This can't happen to me. This is a problem. Domestic violence.
Someplace
that's my
else.
Parents. That's in the home. That's nobody's business. So I was intrigued to know more. So I took this class, and it empowered me because I feel like we all have this stigma of like, well, why would they stay? And I had that stigma. And when I took this class, it really opened my mind to really understand the cycle of violence. And I wanted to do more, and I wanted to be more involved. So my last semester in college, I volunteered at the Women's Center, which is the Rhode Island, Center for Domestic Violence. And I worked with all the children there. I was a big part of the children's group. And I actually wrote them a grant to get them more funding for this children's group.
That's not easy.
No.
Grant writing is not an enjoyable pastime.
So when I graduated school, I'm really close to my family, and I wanted to come back to New York to be with them, but I wanted to do more with this issue. So I started at Grace Smith House as a shelter counselor. I worked in one of our shelters around Dutchess County. And I helped do a little bit of case management, advocacy, counseling with the women, and I loved it. And I loved working with the kids. Kids are my passion. And then quickly I moved into family court, and I had an opportunity to work there, and I got to work in the intake office and write petitions, the family offense petitions. And I got to really see that cycle of violence because it's not just a woman's thing, right? Violence, this domestic violence, everyone thinks it's only this woman, only a woman's problem. But in this job, I got to see that men are abused.
Right.
I got to see that there's all types of intimate partner violence. Maybe it was a daughter that was abusing their parents or, child abuse. And I got to really see what this word abuse means. And it just made me want to help more because I would write a petition that would hopefully get them this piece of paper that said, this person has to stay away from you and try to keep them safe in that retrospect. But it didn't stop the cycle for them. And I wanted to be a part of that. So Grace Smith House adopted this prevention program because we saw that we were serving these women and maybe we weren't all the way stopping that cycle for them. There were gaps. So then later on, we would start serving their daughters because the cycle wasn't broken for their family. Because the tools aren't given to these kids. When they see this violence, it's learned behavior. You learn how to be in relationships by watching others, just like you learn everything, right? You're born, you don't know how to do anything. You watch, you're either taught or you watch from other people. So if you see this model of only unhealthy relationships, that's all you know. And if you're not given the skills to know what a healthy relationship is, you're just going to be trapped in that cycle.
Wow. Goodness gracious. Maxine, how about you? What led you to where you are right now and an outreach educator?
So I kind of have a similar story to Christina. I took an undergraduate course in women's study, and I was so interested on the topic and how there wasn't awareness, how it was just maybe your mom and dad issues, and it was closed behind a door, and no one knew about it. No one spoke about it.
Right.
So in my grad years, I did an internship with Grace Smith House, and I interned as a prevention educator. And in that, I was really empowered about the work we were doing. We were inspiring the youth because they are the next generations. They're our next leaders, congressmen, doctors, professionals, lawyers. So I was really inspired about what we were doing in our community and the work that we were doing and how much we were spreading awareness. So that's how I started. I started off as an intern with the prevention program, and then it eventually led to a job. So.
Cool. I love hearing how people, especially in your line of work, in such, there's many important organizations in Dutchess County. Grace Smith is certainly not the only one, but it is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it takes someone who's very special and a very special individual. And both of you, this is where I wish people could see the light in your eyes as both of you talk about this, because you can tell that there is a passion for this. There is a need for this. And I have to say, you know, it broke my heart when Christina, when you said you filled out papers, petitions for the parents, and then also for a daughter. If that's all you know, because you do model, and I think people forget that little ones watch what you do more than what you say.
Yep.
And so that to me was heartbreaking, because you don't think about that.
No.
You don't. You don't. I mean, you just think if you can get them out of the home, then it's all okay.
Right.
And that is not necessarily the case.
No.
So thank God both of you guys are there.
Thank you.
So let's talk about this. Let's say that when you talk about you go into middle school and high school, how do you do that? Do the schools, can they contact you? Can a parent organization contact you? How can they get you guys in the schools to talk about this with the kids?
All they have to do is call. We are so flexible, and we want to be in your school as much as we can. We work with a lot of our school districts. So this program, when I joined this program, we were in 8 schools. And now we're in every district, all 13 districts, and we're almost in every single school. So we'd love to be in absolutely every single school, so that it's global for this community, that every kid, every teenager is getting the same education as the next one.
You know, I have to say, there are times when I'm at the mall, or not even at the mall, but at a store, at a movie theater, at a restaurant, and I notice and it's not just a male doing a females doing it to guys, or it's not healthy.
No.
And I think to myself, sometimes I think nobody should talk to anyone like that. That's not how you do this. This is not good. I hear it sometimes about people that I know in my life, and you go, okay, I don't want to be nosy. You know, I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do, but what do you do? What if it is your friend? What if it is someone in your family? What if it's a coworker? What can you do? What should you not do? Maybe might be more of a question. This is the part where I ask 3 questions at once that I warned you guys about. This is the one. What do you do?
So abusive relationships, unhealthy relationships, are about 2 things and 2 things only: taking power and control over another person. So you have to be very careful, because if somebody is telling you this is what you need to do at all times, and then someone sees this going on and tries to intervene and is like, you need to leave, you need to do this, you're trying to, again, be controlling. So it's the same thing. So you want to be like an open door, like we are at Grace Smith House. They say a woman leaves statistics say it's like 7 times it actually takes someone in these types of relationships to leave. They leave and go back and leave and go back. And for family members and friends to watch a person doing that, it's really hard to like stay as that support. And I know it's really hard to watch someone you love go through that, but the best thing that you can do is be there. Never leave. Be that support no matter what you see happening. Always be there for that support, because then they're going to know where to go. An abuser, that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to rip your support system right out from under you, because then they're going to go, see, your friend, they're trying to tell you what to do. They're trying to control you. I love you. I'm trying to take care of you. That manipulation.
Got it.
So you have to be that stronghold for them and know what resources are available. Grace Smith House, we have a hotline. It's 24 hours a day. It's 7 days a week. And that's an awesome resource. Every time you call, you get a real person, none of this operator stuff, which is awesome. So call and say, hey, this is going on with my friend. I'm not sure if it's abuse. I'm not sure if it's a conflict in relationship. How can I help? Or give them education. I heard this girl on the radio today, and she was telling us about what unhealthy and healthy relationships were. Let me tell you about what I heard. Giving them the information, not telling them what to do, but just providing there, being that support. That's the best thing anyone can do.
Got it. Now, understanding that every situation is different. But Maxine, when you talk about what are some signs, you know, if there's parents that are watching, maybe they're concerned about their teenager, boy or girl, it doesn't matter. What are, again, knowing their specific situations, but what are some things that maybe may not be the healthiest.
Okay, so some signs, as Christina mentioned, is that isolation piece. That is a really big red flag. So if a person is constantly with their boyfriend or girlfriend all the time, every single day, if they feel like they have to answer someone's phone call right when they're calling, if they're getting maybe 10 to 20 text messages or phone calls at a given time, that technology piece is so prevalent. We see that happening a lot. Those are really big red signs. Even like self-esteem, their self-worth, if they're feeling like they're not worthy, or they feel like they're nothing, or they're no longer doing activities that they used to do. Wow. And also another big one is like changing what you wear. So maybe even changing your style. So now you're wearing sweatpants instead of wearing a skirt or dress. Maybe no longer wearing makeup, changing your identity for another person because they want that.
Got it. You know what? That's interesting that you say that, because again, that would be the power and control. You are changing because there's been manipulation. You know, and parents know their children, and they know what they've done, and they may be wondering, why is this happening? And they can call. What is the hotline number that people can call?
It's 845-471-3033.
Okay, so that's the phone number, 24 hours a day.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
It doesn't matter. When you guys are in the schools, is it an assembly program that you guys do? Walk us through that a little bit as to how that works.
So in a middle school, we are in health classes, we're in gym classes, we work with some of the clubs.
Okay.
We do assemblies. It's really what the need is. And, you know, with schools, especially with the testing now, they don't have a lot of flexible time. So whatever they can do, we'll do. So a lot of times we're in the health rooms or we're in the gym. And we come from a bystander intervention model. You know, if I stood at 40 kids at a time and just talked at them for 40 minutes,
nothing's happening.
It's going in one ear, out the other. So our workshops are super engaging, and it's really helping them form opinions about this stuff, giving them the tools and the education to start to really think and form opinions about this stuff. So it's a lot of talking and conversation and moving around. So like bullying. Is a huge thing, right? And that's something that people do recognize because it's so common. Yeah. And now we keep seeing on the news.
And how sad is that?
Right.
That it's common. How sad is that?
And the consequences of people not intervening now are suicide, depression, self-harm, gateway for drugs, drinking. Like it's so... These are things we see in the news all the time. I mean, I was looking at Yahoo Mail yesterday, and the first thing that popped up was, I'm not sure what state it was, but that a boy and a girl were headed to a Friday night school dance, and they got into a fight, and his 16-year-olds pushed his girlfriend in front of a freight train. Like, this is so real, right? So this is going on all the time. So we come from a model of, we use these words without really understanding them, like this word bullying. So, you know, people label it for, I just got pushed in the hallway. I just got bullied. That's just being mean. That's not being a bully. Understanding what that bullying word means. And, you know, bullying is when a person, you know, tries to harm another person or a group, and it has to have 3 characteristics. So the first one is that it's repeated. It's again and again and again. Maybe it's 5 times, maybe it's 10 times, maybe it's 20 times. But it's not just one time. It's not that one time you joined in with your friends when they were all making fun of that other person. That's not bullying. That's just being mean. We're all mean. We all have mean tendencies. We're humans. None of us are perfect, right? Right. And it has to be deliberate. It has to be on purpose. It needs to have that intention to hurt another person. And we all do and say things that hurt other people. And a lot of times it's on accident because we're all different.
You don't mean
that
to.
Hurts me isn't going to hurt
There's
you,
misunderstandings. There's all kinds. You say it and you go, I wish I could take the words as they were coming out of my mouth and put them back. Yes. We've all done that. We're all human. Yes.
And the third characteristic is that it needs to have some type of power imbalance. So a bully is looking for someone that they think is like vulnerable, someone that they think isn't going to stand up for themselves, someone they think is an easy target. And then they're going to deliberately, like on purpose, repeatedly harm them in different types of way. Maybe it's physically, maybe it's verbally, maybe it's indirectly, right? Maybe they're gossiping, or maybe they're doing it in the cyber world, because some people feel more comfortable saying things behind some type of screen.
Yeah, I got to, you know what, I have to say that I do feel that when people leave comments, even here at the radio station, I almost wonder if they were looking someone in the eye, would they word it the same way? I'm going to make a bet they'd change that just a little. And we all read emails and tweets and texts and posts and messages based on the mood that we're in.
Yep, absolutely.
So we're running that through our filter, which may not be the filter the way it was meant. It was meant to be, which can cause a misunderstanding. But it also, and Maxine, you mentioned this, how many texts you get. Being with the technology that you can reach out and get somebody in the middle of a Saturday night, in the middle of family dinner.
Yep.
And this comes back to what you said, Christina. It's on purpose and it's over and over again. Cyberbullying allows you to do that.
Yes.
That's where I love technology. I think it's tremendous, but there's always good and bad to everything, and this is how the bad side.
Right.
Yes.
What do you talk about when you talk about cyberbullying? What are some things that people can do?
So when we talk about cyberbullying, we talk about that cyberbullying is the use of technology to bully another person. But it's very similar to bullying because it's still deliberate, it's still repeated, and it's still about that power imbalance. But it's just with the use of technology. So there's 3 places in which a person can be cyberbullied. It can be on your cell phones.
Right.
Or it could be in the internet. So that's social media, those social media sites. And then the last place is video games. So your Xbox Live, the PS3.
Oh.
And that's a big one. We always ask the kids, do you see cyberbullying happening with video games? And all of them raise their hand and they always talk about the really nasty comments that they hear on these.
Wow. I would have never thought that.
Yeah.
And they're with strangers most of the time.
Yeah. So they're talking to people from maybe other states, maybe internationally. They don't even know who they are. And they're saying some really mean comments with these Xbox Live.
Wow. Okay. Every time I do a show, there's always at least one thing I learn. I would have never thought about that.
Yes.
Wow. What can people do? Like, how do you talk with someone who may be cyberbullied? I mean, how do you handle that if you're a parent or you're a sister or you're a friend and you're watching this, or maybe it's happening to you and you're listening now? What can they do? I mean, they can call the hotline because cyberbullying, Grace Smith House can help with that as well, which is important. But what can people do?
Parents and teachers and, a lot of people in our community, their technology is constantly changing and getting better. And being up to date on that, knowing what your children and your teenagers are doing. We so often go to PTA meetings and do workshops with parents because we want to make sure that what we're teaching is implemented. And the only way to do that is for the people that are in charge of a lot of different things to also implement this in their own lives.
Right.
So being caught up on the social trends and knowing what your kids are using. I mean, there are apps now that you can get an app and know exactly what every app that your teenager, your child is using. Like being current on what they're doing is just very, very important.
Right.
And look for the warning signs. When your kid doesn't want to go to school, why do you think that? If it's repeated, like often. Or maybe they didn't want to ride the bus anymore. Maybe they want to be driven to school.
Right.
Maybe they're coming home and their clothes are torn. Something's going on there. Watch their grades. Are they dropping?
Right.
Are they spending a lot of time on the internet more than usual? Stuff like that is really important. And we really come from this bystander model because it's like there's like this little bit of people that are bullies and there's this little bit of people that are bullied. But there are like thousands and thousands of people that watch this happen and don't intervene. There aren't just 2 people in a bullying situation. It's not just the bully and the person getting bullied. There's the people that watch it, the people that support that behavior, the people that wish they had the courage to stand up but don't, the people that want to do something but don't know what to do, the people that are also bullies egging them on, right? You see a fight, everybody's egging that fight on, but it's very rare you'll get that one person to say, this is wrong. And power in numbers, like if there's a whole bunch of people that are not for bullying, then that bully is vulnerable. They're the vulnerable one now.
Right.
And trying to maybe do, like we're doing our first summer program ever in Dutchess County.
Oh, good.
It's called Connect for Respect. It's a leadership institute and it's held in August. So we've been contacting our contacts in all of the middle schools. And we're trying to get, from 3 to 4 students from every middle school to come and, learn about this stuff and learn how to help and learn what to do and try to really help them become these leaders that they have the tools to be.
Right.
You know, because if there are 3 people that are so against this in their school, if there's someone getting bullied, they're going to help that person.
Right.
And they're going to feel more confident in helping that person because they got their buddies. Everyone feels more comfortable with other people around them.
Right.
And, you know, we so often like tell stories like, because you can teach this stuff all you want, but if you don't really understand it or really see the effects it can have, it's hard to understand. So a couple years ago, there was a case in Florida. We've been following it here and there, and it started in elementary school, and these 2 girls were bullying this girl, and they were bullying her in school, and they were bullying her on Facebook and Instagram. And when you see that stuff on social media, especially if you're the really cool girls at school, people start to follow you and start to mimic that behavior.
Right.
So, you know, they were saying things like, no, I don't know why you were born. You don't deserve to live. Nobody likes you. And think about it. If you heard that every single day, that you didn't deserve to live, you'd eventually believe it. And she did. And she took her own life. And this ended in 7th grade. So that's elementary school. That's middle school. That's all over social media. And I just think about how many people saw this happen. How many people had the opportunity to intervene and that person would still be here today. And that's when it really clicks for the kids, because they know that this stuff is so real. People are really going into that depression and killing themselves because it's so unbearable. And that's when you really get students to really listen. And you can just see their eyes and see how empowered they feel. And that's why I love my job.
And that's a tremendous point. You know, as a parent, you do want to protect your kids. They may get angry at you sometimes because you're trying to protect them, but you're trying to protect them. But with cyberbullying, as you guys mentioned, if you're not up on what's going on, then someone can reach out and hurt your child when they are in the safety of your home, when they are sitting at the other end of the couch where you are. If you do not know how this technology works, sometimes, I will say it, sometimes it makes me crazy when I hear some parents go, well, you know, what are you going to do? I have to bite and chew the inside of my mouth.
Me too.
Like that's an answer? Well, what are you going to do? You know how they are.
You're going to learn how to help your child.
I'm like, what do you mean? That's exactly what you do. That's exactly what you do. You educate yourself. You find out. You understand how these things work.
Yes.
I'm not saying you have to create your own accounts. You don't have to get caught up in it too, but you really seriously need to know. I mean, when I was growing up, my parents knew what our groups were. Okay. And obviously, and this is, you know, there was no internet when I was growing up. There was no cell phones. There was no reaching out. You know, you wrote something down and you got it in the mail 3 days later. But they knew the clubs we belonged to. They knew the people that we hung out with. And if they didn't, there were questions. Who is this? Right. So they were aware. And in some ways, everyone says, oh, it was so much easier in the past. Well, I don't necessarily believe that. There were challenges then, just as there are now. And I think the thing is, parents need to pay attention. And please, for God's sake, stop saying, well, what are you going to do? Yeah. That makes me crazy. Okay, I'm off my soapbox now, but that makes me crazy because
it's hard for adults because when they saw bullying happen when they were in school, but it stopped at school because hopefully when they got home,
right?
You know,
they weren't banging on the door,
stopped.
They weren't coming
exactly.
Right.
And this information is real for them too. Bullying isn't just with teenagers. Parents get bullied.
Oh, yeah. There's peer pressure no matter where you
Workplace,
are. Somebody's saying,
everywhere.
well, you know, why aren't you coming out and hanging out with us till 2 a.m. because we're celebrating? Well, no, there is that.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I think for, you know, I'm looking at the time. We have about 2.5 minutes, believe it or not.
Okay.
See, this went really fast.
It did.
I love what it is that you guys are doing.
Thank you.
So where can people find out? Are you guys on Facebook? Do you have a website, a phone number? Kind of give some tools that people can use.
So you can email me, you can call me. My email is so easy. It's Christina, Christina, and it's at gracesmithhouse.org.
Okay.
Our phone number is 845-452-7155. And my extension is 33.
Okay.
So if you have any students in your school that you really want them to get this education, please reach out. Or if you're interested in having your teenager come into our summer program, it's for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and we would love to have you.
Okay, Maxine, how would people get a hold of you?
So I have a similar email address to Christina. It's just Maxine, so MAXINE @gracesmithhouse.org. And my number is 845-452-7133, and I'm extension 35.
Okay, so that's how you guys can do that. Maxine, any closing comments, final thoughts you'd like to leave with folks this morning?
My final thought would be to really, for our youth to really be empowered and to inspire your kids to be leaders on this topic, because your children are our next generation. So they're really have a voice, and we always try to end that in our workshops to empower them to make a change or to make a difference, a small difference in their schools and their communities. So that would be my closing statement, is to always be a support, whether it's a bullying situation or whether it's a dating violence situation. Be a support, always be there for people who are in need, because they're going to really need you when something is happening.
Yeah, very well said. Christina, closing comments.
Love shouldn't hurt, and nobody deserves to be abused.
Right.
When you see something, say something. Be that one person that stands up and says this is wrong. Use your voice, because so many people don't have that. So many people are getting bullied, or they're getting abused, or they have this unhealthy relationships in their lives, and they need you. Be there for them. Be that support. Don't follow the crowd. Right. We're taught to be our own individual, yet we all want to look exactly the same.
Yeah. Right? Isn't that the truth? There's a character, a television show from the 70s, MASH, that said, individuality is fine so long as we all do it together.
Yeah.
That doesn't quite work. Christina and Maxine, thank you guys very much for what you do when you're not behind the microphone, and thank you for being here today. I appreciate it.
This is so awesome. Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome. And thanks to all of you for being here. Hopefully there's something that you've learned. Maybe there's tools that you now have, and maybe you can share this program with someone you know and someone you love. If you would like to be on the program, here's how you can get a hold of me. Email beth.christy@townsquaremedia.com. You can call me 845-471-1500. My extension is 159. You will find me on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Pinterest. I've lost track, but